Oh, this is Sports Replay. So no good this week. Went down 8,000 spots. 1,877. Thought I'd do a little bit better this week, so I'm a little bit shocked. My captaincy went well. Um, I mean, yeah, I've got all the right rookies. It just definitely need to do a few upgrades next week, or at least one. So we'll start off with Sheasel, captain. Happy with that. Sort of saved me this round. Made that decision right. So that sort of went my way. This is where sort of things sort of fall apart a little bit. You got Max Holmes only 72, which is not great, even though they won. So, and he's probably considered their best midfielder now, or at least in their top, probably their best player at the moment. Maybe along with Jeremy Cameron. And 72 in the wins, a bit concerning. I mean, hopefully it's one of his lowest scores of the season. Considering Melbourne are probably the bottom four side at the moment, and they might be 0-5 shortly after next week. It's not looking too good for Melbourne, but that's a whole separate video. And then we've got Matt Roberts here, 77, so he wasn't that great either. And then you got Fraser, 49, is actually now decreased in price. So that's probably the major concern with this list now, or with this team, I should say. He is a pod, and I sort of need him to perform well. And when he performs poorly, it's just a lose-lose situation. So he scored 100 in his first two games. That's great. It was mediocre last week, was bad, and this week he was even worse. And he's lost cash. So what am I going to have to do? He'd be either a trade out this week. He has to go now. I don't even think I made money off him. Have I? It doesn't say here. Doesn't say I made money off him here. Look at what about price. Alright, so I've made 16k and would have made 25. So probably really not that much. Maybe I'll just hold for the time being. There's probably a few other things in the side I want to sort out. I mean, who do Bulldogs got next week? I think they've got Brisbane. Yeah, so Brisbane. That's probably one of the worst matchups. Probably can't think of a worse matchup. It's a top team. With probably the best midfield. It's probably not going to go particularly well. So that might even be a trade out potentially. And then you got the Cotting, bounce back. So if you hold on to him, you'd be happy. But again, he lost money. And then this is where things start to get more positive. So my two rookies here, Sullivan and Bice, end up outperforming three of my all the players other than Sheasel on field, which is really concerning for the mid-prices in my side. I took the safe option in having Sullivan on field instead of Bice, but 124, 103. That's great for cash gen, so I'm happy with that with the defenders. Plus Zach Reed, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I do have alarm bells with Fraser. Maybe he was a bit of a trap as well. So we'll discuss that later in the video, what I'm going to do there. Sarong, 142. Happy with that. Sort of saved me again. And then Rosie. So another disappointing score, which seems to be a common theme on my side with a lot of the players. Rosie again sort of performed poorly. We got Zuck Butters back in the side. So here's another player I might have to look to move on. It's going to be a tough call to make. He's sort of still at that prime range. Is he overrated, Rosie? Is he as good as what people say he is? I just think, he needs to take that step up. He's been performing poorly the last 2 weeks. His side loses 2 games they were favourite to win. He needs to lift. Not just for Port's perspective, but just for his personal development. As an individual. When the game's on the line, were you there? And unfortunately, he's not. Now, one of his teammates was there this round, which we'll speak about. And then Will Ashcroft, another player who sort of saved me, 130, happy with that. And He was another player at the start of the season who I was a bit 50-50 about. Had a mediocre first couple of games, but he's bounced back in the last 2 weeks and was probably one of Brisbane's better players. So I'm happy about that. 130. Then Clayton Oliver, he's gone up in price, but he's probably stagnating now. 98. Wasn't terrible. Wasn't that great. Just a standard game. Really want him to go 110, and that'd be enough for now. But it's probably. He'll do better than what I reckon he did last year. I still don't think he's going to get to that peak that he was, a few seasons ago, when he won the flag. So look, he's probably going to be a trade out at some point, but he's at least in my worries at this point. If he can just clean up his ball use, that should improve his scoring. Then Finn Callahan has only really had one good game. When you smash a side like that, you're hoping he will get at least 100 points, and a lot of his teammates did, but he hasn't. So he's another trap that I sort of fell for. Look, you could bounce back. Once again, a lot of these players are still fairly young. They're not expecting perfect every game, but it's just that there's this. When you win by 10 goals, there's a higher expectation, of you scoring well. You're guaranteed to almost at least score a half-decent score, and, Callahan didn't. So that's another player I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to do. The problem is at this stage of the season, you don't want to trade out, either even mid-prices or, primos to another mid-price or a primo. You want to be making as much money as you can. That's what you're all about at this time, this stage of the season. Driscoll, 46, another player was disappointing, which, is just... he's been really... performed well the first 3 rounds, but... the last round is just... shocking. Just, 301, so that's good for him. And then Levi Ashcroft, 87. So he bounced back this week, which was sort of expecting since they play in Richmond. But that last quarter, that Brisbane play was just terrible. And, if they played a better side or even an average side, a mediocre side, they might have lost that game. So I think Brisbane's still got a bit of work to do. They are 4-0. They are second on the ladder. And they're only really second just on percentage. And they probably really should have been first at the other round. Because they were 9 goals up. So, look. Happy with that. He's a hold. And then 43 for Morales. Probably pronounced that incorrectly. But so, it's another player who dropped off. I'm trading him in for Lindsay, which probably going to end up being a bad move. But I sort of need that quick cash. And that's what I'm really all about. I reckon it might have been... It's probably going to backfire. But he had a poor game, and he's young, so I'm not going to expect the world from him. It's just, you're going to have these poor games with young players. It's as simple as that, but it's just frustrating. And the bench is just pretty much only Henderson with 32, and it sort of stopped his cash gen. He might even be playing next week. So I might even have 3 rookies not even playing. So I probably need to sort out the bench too, of what I'm going to do. In the rucks, so clearly one of probably the biggest flaws on my side at the moment is Flynn. I'm not too sure what West Coast are doing with him. It looks like he's just, he wasn't even selected as an emergency option, which is just a huge concern with a team that has the worst ruck, or the first team ruckman. So he's probably going to have to go unless the main ruckman gets injured. He's just... I'm a little bit frustrated. I think West Coast can still sort of experiment, but they're getting smashed. Maybe try Flynn. He had a half-decent season a few years ago. So, look, I'm going to have to trade him for a deconning. That's what I'm going to have to do. There's no question about that. Do have to pay up, but I've got the cash for it. And sometimes you're just going to have to make decisions like that. I've got 495k, so that's probably another reason why I performed poorly this round. He's not really using all the cash. Maybe I could have got in, the conning and scored an extra 30, 40 points, which would have made a slight improvement in the rankings. But I wanted to get that cash, bring that money in as quick as possible, because I reckon that's going to be better long term. A lot of people probably laughing at me. I think, what's this guy doing, creating a YouTube channel? But I'll find a way to come back as usual. Then Isaac Rankin, 81. Yeah, look, a little disappointing. He probably should have got to 100. Was robbed, but a free kick, really. That dying stages there, and Adelaide probably should have won this. That being said, I mean, that's just footy sometimes. Everyone has Rankin, so in terms of Supercoach, it's not a huge deal. I mean, it's not a terrible score, but I mean, again, he could have got to high 90s at least, with a few things going his way. And then Macrae 100, so a little bit down to earth, a little bit. Even though St Kilda won, there's an even spread with St Kilda's list, and they sort of performed well the last 3 matches. Like, they had 3 solo wins. The one against Richmond we were expecting, but the last 2 with Geelong and Port Adelaide, they were underdogs that game. And to win away, is not a bad effort. I had them down as a bottom 4 side, or at least near the bottom 4, particularly after the first round. But they've sort of bounced back, so that's good for them. And talking about bouncing back, we've got Horne-Francis. So you look like a fool if you traded him out. And this is why I was never a fan of trading Horne-Francis out. He was always going to be a top 6 forward, or at least around about it. 153, sort of saved Port Adelaide for a further embarrassment, really. So he's bounced back. That's why, I was never keen on trading him out. Looked like a fool. Then Daniel, 92, another solid game. Did make a few poor decisions, though. Cost North Melbourne a goal. So he could have probably even got 100, 110 this game as well. And then Bailey Humphrey. So I traded him in for Sanders, and I think Sanders scored a little bit more than what Humphrey did, which is a little disappointing. How much did he score more than Sanders? So I'll just have a look at Sanders. So 12 points, 76. So Sanders. So I still reckon it was better on trading him, get that extra 100k, which is what I wanted. That extra money was just, was probably worth it. Maybe a better option might have gone to marriage, but either way, bringing that extra cash, because it's what we want at this stage of the season. This cash, money. That's all I care about at this stage. And then I can use that extra money to catch up. And then we got Max Hoare, 56, which ended up being a decision compared to the bench. And you got Sam Davison, 54, and Stone, which is worse than anyone this week. Yep. So Stone, he's probably going to have to be. He might even play for the rest. He might even get dropped. I mean, they won by 10 goals, and a forward only kicking 29, getting a score of 29. He's not particularly great. So, he's either going to be a hold or eventually be a trade out at some point. He's probably going to remain a dead rookie. And if he is playing, he's not scoring too much. I mean, if you can get like a 70, 80, that'd be great. So what I'm going to have to do, I think the obvious one here, is bring him to Conning. I know he's a bit more expensive. He's actually gone down in price this week, slightly. Luke Jackson's had a great start. Whoever started him, you'd be laughing. Darcy, it might have been actually a good option. So I'm going to have to do that trade. Had the money to do it, you just do it, since everyone's playing this week. What I'm going to have to do is maybe even bring in some other rookies. It all depends if Nivet's playing, which is another thing that I didn't really mention that I'm annoyed about. And you got Geelong playing that early game, so I could probably put same of that. Put Bicer instead of Reed. All of a sudden with the defensive rookies too, it was looking mediocre at the start of the season, but now it's actually looking all right. Fraser might have to go. His break even's going to be too high, and playing Brisbane, it's not going to get any better. I could be wrong though. He could drop a half decent game. So I'm looking to probably maybe get rid of Fraser and take the 16k price rise, and then who else? It all depends on the break evens. I need to have a look at them. Is anyone who I actually want to bring in who's going to make money though? I'll probably have a look into that too. But that's definitely the obvious trade that I'm going to do. Callahan too. Is he going to go? Who GWS got? Yeah, I mean St Kilda. Probably going to be a mediocre matchup, to be honest. Look, hopefully he does bounce back. I think it's a wrong hold, obviously. Rosie probably hold, has bigger issues. Ashcroft, yeah, happy. Oliver hold, has way bigger issues. Driscoll's probably one more week of money to be made. Then he's probably going to have to go at 46. Yeah, I mean, look, could be a lot worse, but I mean, I've wanted to just bring cash in this week. That's all I really cared about. And I have, a higher value team than some of these other top teams, with extra salary. So that would hopefully then make up, bringing Connie in. That would help. Well, I mean, that's obviously trade that I'm just going to have to do. Just end the nonsense with the rucks. Then everywhere else, it's like, what do I do? With some of these players, I think you probably want to bring in more money makers in, I guess, as well. I think next week is when we start really doing the upgrades. I do have concerns though with Fraser and DeConning a little bit. They might be able to have, probably not the week to really get him out. Because I think Fraser's going to go down next week. I was going to get rid of him, it would be this week. And who do I get him forward? I'll bring in a primo price player. At 5'10". Then you have Sinclair, which is probably out of reach now, Zorko. At 94, so he's maybe not this week, maybe the week after or the week after that. It's probably the best to bring him in. Maybe even a Bailey Dale, 546. Don't have quite that money. And then Rioli, 163, which I'll never thought he would reach that score. Man, that's good on him. Maybe a Nazaya Wangalia. Harry Himmelberg is in good form. And then Clark's probably the other one that you want to have a look at as well. I think Whitfield, though, is probably my... Yeah, Dale... Yeah, I mean, look... Yeah. Interesting. But Sheasel's gone down to 60k. But yeah, he'll bounce back. Yeah, I mean... don't really have it. The players that I want, I don't really have. I'm not bringing Rioli. I mean, that might be just a one-off game from Rioli. The players I'll probably do want in defence as a primo is probably Dale, Whitfield, maybe even a Zorko. He hasn't got injured for a while, which is good. And Sinclair's out of reach now. He's performed really well the last few weeks. So that's probably going to be, unfortunately, a hold. Unless there's like some rookie on the bubble. Sandy Brock, he's only played one game. Toby Trevor Elgar, maybe him. Might have to bring him in and trainer. It's sort of probably a bit too late with him. Yeah, I think, and the rest is probably not worth looking at, to be honest. So it was going to go down this week. Maybe I could get rid of Fraser and bring in Toby Travolga, maybe as a defensive option. That's one other option I can do. Probably hold the Koenig. In terms of the midfield, maybe Callahan. Who can I upgrade? 596. Is that enough to get what's his name? Yeah, so Lieber would have been a good starting selection. He had a mediocre game this week, but Dunkley. Andrew Brayshaw, if you started with him, you'd be sort of happy now. I had a poor game. A few people have jumped on him. Jake Saligo, though, he's done well. Smith, yeah, a lot of people had him and I missed out on him. What about Dacos? Yeah, so Dacos does 582 here. I need to check his break even. So he scored a 94. He's probably a player I'm going to look to get in. So I can maybe go up a Finn Callahan to a Dacos, and that'll solve that problem. That's another thing I'll be thinking about doing. Or would I just go full rookie mode? Clay Hall, if he plays, he's probably another one we bring on the bubble. And Camperelli didn't play. I think Carlton just need to play the rookies now, really. And then you've obviously got Trevor DeValco, so he's going to be another one in the mix this week. And then in the 4 line, you probably... Yeah, I think there's still money to be made. Perhaps get rid of Stone. Dudley had a good first game, only scored 46, but he's only 9. So you could bring him in. Rasmus, if he's playing, although the job security isn't there. Collard, where you're ready made. Yeah, so if you've got to do that, you probably do Dudley 99 and have 70k and still make some money there. And then I can do a huge trade next week. Maybe bring in a Dacos for one of the midfielders, perhaps. Though really, you just don't want to hold on to those mediocre. You want the rookies off as soon as possible and then maybe upgrade the mid prices last. So if things go my way next week with Fraser and all that, that might be work out all fine. But I've got too many players who are just underperforming or, traps that I've fallen into. I got rid of Perryman for another trap. And then I've got I got rid of him for Sullivan, I think. But Decarian, or was it Decarian? I brought in I made one of the trades a few weeks ago. For trap at this stage. And I think everything else seems to be fine in regards to that. So, look, mediocre this week, but I reckon I can bounce back. Because if you look at last year, I started off performing poorly after the first 4 rounds. Which I did mediocre last year as well, but I was even in a worse position last year in 56,000. And I haven't even worse round 4 last year. And then I came back to 10,000 and ended up finishing 12,000, which is still mediocre. But there's I can always come back. I think in previous years I've started off slow, 23, ranked 26,000, finish at top 6,000, 22, 23,000, and finish in 5,700. So you always seem to fight back a little bit. It is round 4, but you got to start making those tough decisions. So to summarise, Sheasel, keep, hold, probably trade either this week. He's going to lose more value next week. So most likely be a trade. I probably don't want to use a boost. Declining, hold, and great. Hold. I guess hold Rosie. I reckon he'll bounce back. Hold. Maybe a trade. Probably a hold. Maybe a trade. And maybe probably hold. Yeah, I think that. I've spoken too long. That's enough for me. Have a great. Hope he did well this week, unlike me.